Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show. For all of you with a primary school aged child, this man will be very familiar. The principal of McPolin Elementary School, Principal Bob Edmiston. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you for letting me be here. I take any advantage to brag on the district and in particular McPolin.
And in particular McPolin, of course. Now everybody is getting back into the swing of things after a very long holiday extended break. I'm sure there's lots of moms and dads out there that were thrilled to drop them off back in your capable hands at the end of that vacation. Yeah. But it was a little bit of a day late. We had a Park City snow day. Park City snow day. You don't hear that often.
No, I'm not part of that decision. I know that's a decision that the superintendent makes in collaboration with the people that clean up the streets, the police, to make sure students are safe. And given the amount of snow that came down, I think the right decision was made. And I know how disappointed students and some of the staff were to have to ski 2 feet.
You know, I'll tell you, it was amazing. We saw every friend from school waving at each other. I mean, it was just an extra little holiday present, I feel like, to soften the blow of heading back to school.
A day we will long remember.
A day we will long remember. So, of course, part of living in the Park City community is the exceptional public school system that we all get to enjoy and have our children be a part of. But to brag on your school a little bit, let's talk about McPolin and some of the things that differentiates it from the rest of the elementary schools.
Thank you. Love to. And I want to focus on the fact that we are a school-wide dual immersion program. But first, I'd like to talk about McPolin and kind of lay the foundation for that.
Please.
McPolin is what I consider, the language we use is a majority-minority school for all the different facets of our school. One, we're a Title I school.
Okay.
Title I means that a certain percentage of students qualify for a free or reduced lunch based on the income of their family. At McPolin, that's 47% of our students. Nearly half of the 400 students K-5 qualify for that. Then about a third or a good proportion of students come from some of the most affluent homes in the Deer Valley area. So we have that mix of students. Add to that, 50% of our students are Hispanic, 50% Caucasian. Then another third of our students are language learners. And what that means, even though you might be identified ethnically as Hispanic, English might be the primary language or a language that is strong in that home regardless. Third of our students, though, about 130 or so, do not meet a certain standard on an assessment we give for their language proficiency. So those students also attend McPolin. So we're quite a mix.
You are
right
a diverse
in downtown.
bag.
We
right
love
there.
it. And that's what I believe is the best, one of the great qualities of our school. The experiences students at this young age are having to be around this sort of diverse group of students and families.
You're creating quite a community, but I have to ask for people watching that are curious about the demographics of the school. That is quite a disparity. You have, almost 50% of the students qualifying for a subsidized lunch due to their parents' income. Then you have one of the most affluent communities, arguably in the country, in Lower Deer Valley, and they're in the school as well. And then not only do you have the different cultural aspects of your population, you also have a group who language on either side they're catching up on, English or Spanish.
Correct.
How do you assimilate all of these students and get everybody to a certain community bar where everybody can move forward together?
That is what keeps us working. It's very complex, and we have many programs. We have instructional supports we use to do that. One of the structures we use is the dual immersion program. It's a perfect fit. And having it school-wide is one of the strengths as well. And we are one of 2 schools in the state that are a school-wide dual immersion program, so different than choosing to be a part of.
I was going to say, clarify the school-wide aspect. What makes this different than the other programs we hear?
At most schools, you sign up for, you choose to be a part of that program, different than traditional or an English-only program in the other classrooms. In McPolin, school-wide, you are in dual immersion starting in first grade. So every student gets exposed to this. We think that's a perfect fit because we are a two-way immersion program, which means half of our students are native English speakers, while the other half are native target language Spanish speakers. So we have role models in both languages, 50-50 split in each classroom.
So they really support and help each other.
It allows for that sort of student interaction and allows all students to be the role model or the superstar at a certain part of the day.
And what does that day look like? We hear dual immersion, thrown out a lot, but when you're an actual student that shows up and you have your 7 or 8 hour day in front of you, what does that look like language-wise for them?
Half of the day, give or take, is English, and in the lower grades, K2, K3, we don't do it in kindergarten.
Okay,
First through third, we have half of the day primarily the literacy is taught in English.
Okay.
Math, social studies, and some science is also taught in Spanish. So students are exposed to those content areas in different languages. Then when you get to fourth and fifth, it gets more complex, where the English side does literacy, does math primarily, and then the social studies, science, and literacy is primarily in Spanish.
Interesting.
And what's complex, and I will use my little audio
Please,
visual
we
aid.
love a visual aid.
No, this is the complexity. I said what a perfect fit this is. I consider the opportunity to be a high-performing dual immersion program school-wide to be a lot like getting married.
Okay.
I've been married now. This will be my 27th anniversary in February. If you had any idea what you were walking into, I think, when you're a young person in love, you might put on the brakes a little bit if you had any idea what you're getting into. But the truth is, I couldn't.
And you can speak from experience after 27 years.
Well, my wife can probably, because she's the better half, of course. And it's hard work, and it's the best thing you'll ever do. But it's not easy. There's bumps in the road, and you learn to work through things. That's what this dual immersion is. Because in one day, we have a 4-section grade configuration. So there are 4 classrooms in each grade, other than 5th grade, which will be next year.
Okay.
So you have a English side teacher working with a Spanish side teacher. And they have to be working closely together. Because there's an expectation that in that language, you review to a certain degree what was taught in the other language earlier in the day.
Right, you're sort of reaffirming.
So you have to know what's going on there. However, you also need to make sure that what that other English teacher or what that other Spanish teacher is doing, that you two are on the same page.
Right.
So you have to be working together with that teacher as well to make sure students are being given a consistent, viable curriculum. And then, of course, the whole grade level
is working together. It's a marriage of teachers.
Working with
really,
all 80 or so students. That's the strength, that now instead of siloed teachers are working, and I will say that in a marriage, you're sure you're on the same page. We agree on this.
Of course, always.
And then all of a sudden, oops, really? I
didn't know you felt that way.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so I'm sure there's a level of accountability when you all are working together like that.
It has created a demand that we work together, that we not only work at a superficial level, surface level, but we must also work at a very deep level in reference to beliefs, in reference to instructional practices, what we're doing to meet the needs of these different students you brought up, so that there's a consistency instead of even more confusion when you're going to 2 languages as a 6-year-old.
Well, and that's just mind-boggling to me. You think about what a 6-year-old is trying to digest in one language, and then you add that on. But I have to ask this, it sounds wonderful to expose them to the diversity, expose them to the various languages. What happens in 6th grade when they move on to middle school? Does the language continue, or what is the
Yes,
program?
it does. Okay. Now, in specific content areas, students will continue to get that target language, where we have French and Spanish going into that grade level. Actually, the opportunity that our students have is amazing. They will move up into those grades and in certain content areas continue to be immersed in those languages. When they get to 8th grade, they can now take the AP test. I believe it's 8th or 9th.
Okay.
And if they score a certain score, they can then continue to take college level courses in that language and can graduate from Park City High School with a minor, I think short of maybe one or two classes. They graduate with all but a minor in that language that is accredited by the University of Utah, because that is our college that we are collaborating with to offer those classes. So we'll now have students, not only are they being exposed to a great program that forces them into a cognitive dissonance in 2 languages, they have to learn to problem solve. They really have to learn to anchor their content because they're being exposed in 2 languages. But they're now going to be offered an opportunity to graduate with all but a minor, saves a little money for mom and dad, and gives our students a leg up on top of what is already an exceptional school district.
Just one more reason that we're proud to live in Park City.
Couldn't agree more.
Bob, thank you so much for being here this morning. It has been an education.
I hope so. And I've enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you. We are going to take a quick break here on the Mountain Morning Show. We will be back with our friend Katie Wang, the executive director of the Park City Film Series, for a screening of this weekend's film right after this.